So somebody had this Pokemon theory about a while ago where they were saying that, if you could take like a fossil and resurrect the fossil, you obviously get a new Pokemon. But somebody actually said that, well, what if they took the concept of Cubone's dead mother and used it to recycle her? Could we technically bring her back to life? Kind of sounds a little far-fetched, but it sounds like very interesting to me. I mean, it'd be really interesting to see how that pans out, because would it still be the same mother then? I mean, if you was to bring her back, because it'd be like you're using the genetics of the Pokemon, but is it really the soul of the Pokemon that has been lost, and instead of what is it taken away from? So, like, first of all, you'd have to find the soul again, but then you'd have to bring the Cubone's dead mother back, the body. You'd have the genetics, but then would it technically be the same? And what else would be required then? I mean, if we were to say that a Pokemon that's already dead, but its physical genetics still exist, then we are like, because every time when we bring back another fossil Pokemon, we're bringing that Pokemon back to life, but like it's not the same Pokemon though. It's like a different version of it. They brought a different, unless of course they somehow find a way to create the soul of it at the same time. So either it's a different individual or it might be the same, depending on the abstract of it. So it'd be very interesting to see how that would work. I would be curious, actually, if Nintendo ever did that, or if somebody does it in a ROM hack. That'd be pretty cool, because I mean, Pokemon Dreams was pretty cool, and they came out with some pretty interesting concepts that I find really fascinating. Even I would like to know more about like some of the ideas that they had and some of the structure and textural designs of it. But anyways, so it just goes to show you that, you try one new thing, you get different results, basically, is the idea. And that's what's really cool about Pokemon, because, ROM hacks or not, there's so many cool concepts, and they really have infinite possibilities. If people want to keep making Pokemon games that are, like, centered around something, you can really see, like, just the absolute madness that somebody creates, and you can just get lost in so many different hours. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about Pokemon. A lot of people said that Nintendo was always running out of ideas, or the series just was kind of stale. But if you really do think about it, there are people out there that can reverse engineer a lot of stuff, and you really can see all these cool concept arts that really, like, even if they started out as gimmicks, they turn out to be like one of the greatest possibilities that the series had to offer. All the Pokemon you could catch, all the different areas you could go to, all the different meanings behind it. You really get to see the uniqueness of it, and it's still like just a speck of dust in an infinite fictional universe. Like, for example, like, all the Pokemon games are supposed to take place on like the planet Earth, because they're based on real life locations. So okay, so fast forward to time and space, and all of a sudden now you got like other planets, other galaxies, other time periods we haven't gone to in that exact same location, like ultra space, for example. All the portals that open up and lead to like different legendaries and all that. And I find it absolutely fascinating that anybody who's made a Pokemon ROM hack understands the struggle and dedication it takes to really envision something like that. I mean, yeah, the tools might be out there. You can reverse engineer an already existing game like Pokemon Fire Red, for example, or Pokemon Emerald, but it just really amazes me what the madness that some people can create. And like, you can't find videos of it online. You can't find, because nobody's done them yet, for example. It doesn't mean people haven't played them. It just means that, you have to get really clever with where all the stuff's at, because it might be in that game, but it's like you might not know exactly where it's at. Like right now in Pokemon Dreams, for example, I was trying to find like Reshi and Zekrom. Or Reshi and Zekrom, yeah. And I don't even know where they were at until I started looking at the maps that were in the area and all that in the game. And then it's like you really see like the dragon's den, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh, I see where it's at. That's got to be where he's at, because he's a dragon type. Both of them are, all three of them are. And same thing with Kurium. I guarantee you that's where you catch all three of them. But whatever the case is, it's really interesting how that works. One series leads to another, and another series that, it's just one Pokemon ROM hack versus like all of them. And, it's just really cool. Like, this channel is just mostly going to be Pokemon content for all intents and purposes, but it's just mad. It's just absolutely mind blowing, how many people still care about this series, because it worked like that. And so Cubone's dead mother could very well lead us into another Pokemon discussion, because now it opens up even more possibilities, like who's Cubone's real mother. Again, even though we made a video about this before on this channel, but at the same time though, we've kind of delve into the concept that Cubone's mother might have actually been more than just a Marowak, or or related to a Kangaskhan. Like, I mean, it really does make me wonder, if Cubone and Kangaskhan really are somewhat relatable, like, I mean, not just based on the species they are, but it just was different events in their life that really turned them into different Pokemon. Because again, like, for example, like, everybody's different. Everybody's got different stories. Everybody's got different things that happen to them. And sometimes maybe we reminisce on that stuff, maybe too much. Or maybe some people just, maybe some people just don't care. They just like, it is what it is, and they just move on from it, because nobody knows what life's going to bring. But it's like, dwelling about the past ain't going to solve anything, except for, like, remembering history for what it is, Even if it is stating the obvious over and over again. Sometimes you have to tell yourself the same thing over and over again, because if you don't, how are you going to really know you're accurately learning something from it then? You know what I mean? It's easy to forget things over time. Like memories, for example. You might remember something like it happened yesterday, like the old saying goes, but, fast forward like hundreds of years later, or and that generation might not know because they weren't there for it. You know what I mean? All we have is to them, it might not even existed, because all that they went off of it, that it either it existed was word of mouth from other people, or like maybe, an artifact that speculates it did exist, Like, who really knows what happened on those days, Like this planet, for example, people say it's 4.7 billion years, but it's like, it could very well be older than that, not just through carbon radio, half-lives and carbon dating and all that, but it just, there's so many things we just don't know about this planet. And like, how many other civilizations were here? Were there aliens that came and went, and what happened to them, It's interesting to think, like, all the things that we don't know, and at the same time, though, it's like, even in a fantasy could teach us that very well, and I think that's what Pokemon, I ultimately feel like that's what Pokemon was always good at. Not just the concepts it came up with, but the realism and the relatability that was just really remarkable behind it. I think ultimately that's why Pokemon succeeded in the way it did. Because like when Satoshi Tajiri envisioned the series, he stated that he just wanted to create a series, not only did people enjoy it, but a series that a lot of people could look back and say, you know what, this is very, very inspirational, very rational, very, like, in a way, you can envision like a boy, someone you've never even heard of in the world, wants to go on in his own adventure like a lot of other people, but he takes it more seriously than everybody else. It led him down ordeals he's got himself in pickles he's gotten out of. He's gotten in situations where, he inspired other people, because now people knew who he was. And then you had people that, they, like, for example, like, in like Gold and Silver, you actually fought him, and it's like, like, what kind of battle was it going to be? Like, you've heard all these great things, but it's like, is it really going to be as difficult as they say it is? It's interesting to think, like, a lot of people, like, and it's like the same thing with Cubone's dead mother, with the whole, like, what else are we not seeing here with, like, a resurrection machine in the skull that Cubone's mother had? Could we really bring, like, a Marowak back to life if they can bring back fossils? Is there enough genetics there to bring something like that back? And if so, would it be the same Cubone and Kangaskhan? Cubone. Would that definitively prove who Cubone's real mother is? I think so. I think it sounds crazy, but it actually would make sense too, because if Cubone's dead mother was actually a Marowak, and that's because it would kind of make sense, because Marowak's skull looks more closer to what Cubone wears than Kangaskhan does. So as far as Cubone goes, like a baby Kangaskhan and a Cubone would have to be very similar to each other somehow. So if you ask me, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they're... Oh, geez. The birds are building a nest outside. But anyways, the way I look at it, I wouldn't be surprised that they're all relatable somehow. So that way they can... you just see, like, them just be different, though. But it's like without Cubone's skull on its head, what does it really look like? How much different does baby Kangaskhan look like towards a Cubone without the skull? Because I really would like to know. A lot of people might say they know, but I don't know. We have to think about that for a little bit. But the way I look at it, it ultimately means that we shouldn't give up on trying to figure it out, because that's another thing about Pokemon that a lot of people don't know. You know, Cubone, I would still say if we look at the body of Cubone, the Marowak's body too, like when you look at Cubone's tummy and its area, like in its back, you notice how it's got like it's all brownish. And then you got the oval on its stomach lining where it's like really, what is it really? It's like lighter. It's like a brownish, and then a tan color. So Cubone and Marowak are definitely relatable, obviously, but so is Cubone and baby Kangaskhan, even though they might be a little different. Like, because again, I do believe a baby Kangaskhan can grow up to be a Kangaskhan, an adult Kangaskhan. Makes sense. If it does make sense if it's a female, it has to evolve into Marowak. Because again, what we're not seeing in the games is that we're not really seeing how they grow up. You know, you have a baby Kangaskhan who's already been impregnated, and she's had her baby. So that baby Kangaskhan is with its mother. Again, the adult Kangaskhan in this case. And yeah, I do believe it is possible that a baby Kangaskhan and a baby Cubone might be different, but at the same time though they are very relatable because they do come from like it wouldn't surprise me if they, like, maybe not in the games we don't see it, but like somewhere else out there they definitely do exist though. Like Kangaskhan, Marowak, and baby Kangaskhan, baby Cubone, and not baby Marowak itself. I wouldn't be surprised they're all going together with Kangaskhan somehow. I wouldn't be surprised they do breed with Kangaskhan's, and depending on the nature, depending on the gender, depending on how old they are as well, if you want to go by based on the age, are they mature enough to actually sexually reproduce and therefore have offsprings, again, baby Kangaskhan's and Cubones, and therefore, depending on the resulting nature, they can become, you know, either Cubone or Kangaskhan. So I do believe Cubone can technically have two mothers. The same thing with baby Kangaskhan. It just really depends on what events unfold. Cubone could be with Kangaskhan, and then Kangaskhan, or maybe its mother could also be the baby Kangaskhan's mother could be Kangaskhan, and then vice versa, and maybe Marowak, and then maybe Marowak could also be obviously be Cubone's mother because it loves its mother very much. Male or female, doesn't matter. Can be a Marowak, can be a female Marowak. I think it really just depends on how Cubone feels, you know, and where it really just spends its time at, you know, because, again, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I want to see the day, one day, that, you know, we see Cubone, Kangaskhan's and Marowaks together. I would not be surprised it happens. Somehow. Now, here's another question. Is Kangaskhan technically older than Marowak? I think it could be possible. You know, especially if it is supposed to be like a split timeline, so that way they could have took Kangaskhan and split it off, so that way Kangaskhan was more of like a pun on the Genghis Khan, so they could kind of fill that story. But like, you know, it could have Marowak evolved into a Kangaskhan. Well, that's kind of debatable. Possibly, but it would probably, I think it would make more sense that even though it's not canon in the games, but it's still like they are relatable, and it would kind of make sense because, you know, Guardia was the Pokemon that Kangaskhan evolved into, or was actually scrapped from, and Marowak evolved into Guardia. So yes, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, maybe Marowak is a female Kangaskhan, you know, the female Marowaks that could evolve into a Kangaskhan. But then it does make you wonder, you know, if we're going based on the original evolutionary lines, you know, how does Marowak evolve into Kangaskhan and its head becomes different? But again, Pokemon evolutions are always proving us that, you know, a Pokemon can change its complete genetic makeup and it could look completely different at all. Like, again, like, I'll give you an example. You know, look at some of the Pokemon that have evolved into something, whether they had a scrapped evolution, maybe somewhere in between. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if you didn't know this, like, I've even stated this before. In Gen 2's prototype for the 1997 Space World demo, there was it wasn't in the 1997 Space World demo. It was like kind of like somewhere in between. There was another evolution for Xatu and Natu. If you don't know, that was the Pokemon that stares into the sun and can see psychic powers. They say like in its left eye it can see the past, and the right eye it can see the future, or something like that, something crazy. Or if you remember in Pokemon Mystery Dungeons 1, when you crossed the Great Canyon, you know, you had to go see Xatu. Xatu was staring into the cannon across that, and you could see like over the sun, you know, it was staring into the sun to see the future and all that. So what was really cool is Xatu actually had an evolution before. You know, you had this little baby bird like Natu, and it evolved into something else, and then it would finally evolve into Xatu. Now, what that Pokemon was, I couldn't tell you. It was kind of like a little bird type Pokemon that was like, but it had feet, and before it became huge, like Xatu was. So it's like there had to have been like another evolution somewhere in between, because Natu was like a foot tall, or maybe a little bit smaller. It was like a Pokemon that couldn't even like it would just hop around in the grass because of how small it was, kind of like a little Pidgey, for example. You know, so it was like a little Sparrow, or even Sparrow itself, before it evolved into something like Fearow, where it was like so big that, you know, you could see it from like a distance, you know, and as well as like little baby Sparrow versus Pharaoh's, you know, you see how what a big difference size does matter in this case. So it's like the same thing with, you know, Kangaskhan, you know, I mean, except the nature's different, because again, Kangaskhan's always female, but if female Kangaskhan's are adults, now again, not the baby Kangaskhan, because again, if that is their baby, because it makes sense because it looks just like them, you know, then who's the father, you know? So male Marowak. I would not be surprised if it was male Marowak, or maybe even a male Kangaskhan through a Ditto, because you got to think about that for a second. That is possible. Dittos can breed with Kangaskhan's last time I checked, and you do get a Kangaskhan. So it's interesting to think about. So as far as the series goes, if they were to resurrect Cubone's mother through like a fossil machine, that would actually be very interesting, and I do think that they should do that. So if you guys like this video, please subscribe. If you want my honest opinion on something else, please, I do take requests if it will make the fans happy. I do want this channel to hit 100,000. Well, we're going to try to hit 10,000 subscribers next, and then 100,000, and then 1 million, and then beyond that. So hopefully this video was a little educational. If you're a Pokemon fan, again, expect more Pokemon Dream updates. I'm going to be uploading a lot of Pokemon Dreams videos. I'm going to try to keep it on a schedule timer, though, so that way like it pops up every now and again. So those videos might pop up a little bit sooner than they should. But like I'm scheduling, because if you don't know, you can upload a video on YouTube and it could be unlisted. But at the same time, though, to prevent spamming, but so that way I'm still uploading something, I can have it upload to the system, set it up for a certain time, and then it previews at that time when YouTube hits it. It's actually pretty clever. I do like, there's a lot of features on YouTube that some people might complain about, but if you know how to use them to your advantage, they're actually pretty useful. And I'm kind of glad that they haven't scrapped those ideas. Those are actually pretty useful. So, especially me, I always like to upload content, but sometimes I don't want to my subscribers to feel like, you know, we're oversaturating this, you know, channel with too much stuff. I think it's just easier to keep one channel and upload a lot of stuff to it, because all the subscribers are already there. So it's like, well, why make two then, you know? So anyways, we'll make more Pokemon videos. But until then, guys, have a nice day, and I hope everything goes well for you.